Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Consumer confidence up as Jamaicans are optimistic about the economy. 2 women shot in brazen halfway tree shooting. And later in sports, KC's basketball coach banned for 2 years. I'm Kalisha Williams and here are the details. Confidence has increased in the third quarter of 2022, with consumers and business operators expressing optimism about the Jamaican economy. O'Shane Masters has the details.
Consumer confidence has risen by 4.2% for the third quarter of this year. Executive Chairman of Market Research Limited, Don Anderson, says the rise was due to consumers' buoyant optimism in the economy. But what are some of the conditions that led to the marked improvement? For one, Mr. Anderson noted that Jamaicans expected businesses to be better post-COVID-19. Also, the prospects for jobs were significantly greater.
Bear in mind that consumers have never been strongly positive about job situation. But in third quarter of 2021, 25.6% felt that expected job situation to be better. That moved up to 35.2%. So it's seen a continuation of positives in the minds of the consumers.
The increased consumer confidence in the economy has also led to the expectation that people will spend more. However, the findings reveal that when it comes onto home ownership, less Jamaicans were expected to spend money.
In the third quarter of 2021, 25% of all persons said that they were likely to take a vacation. That moved up to 29.3%. What about motor vehicles? The increase is larger than the incidence of persons who say they will take a vacation. 11.6% in third quarter 2021 moves up to 17.8% in third quarter 2022. Now, these are the more, the low-hanging fruits. Because when you look at home purchase, that fell from 10.6% down to 8.8%.
Mr. Anderson presented the findings of the Jamaica Conference Board survey of business and consumer confidence at a webinar on Tuesday. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, business confidence increased dramatically by 18.3% when compared to the same quarter last year. A quarter of businesses surveyed expect higher than projected profits, while nearly 2/3 believe it is a good time for expansion. Pollster Don Anderson says 55% of businesses believe that the economy will improve.
They've been optimistic. So again, it's not that they're necessarily seeing the concrete changes yet, but they believe based on what they're seeing around them that it is a good time to be optimistic. They are optimistic, and that's the number one reason that they advance. Secondly, a lot of them believe that with the expected rebound in the tourism sector, that this will have a positive spin-off in the economy. Tourism being clearly our biggest, foreign exchange earner. And therefore, they expect that all of this will trickle down and that their business, regardless of what sector they're in, will in fact benefit somewhere or another. They believe the economy is recovering. So again, that's consistent with the thinking that things are opening up, businesses are coming back to normal, even if they're not coming back to full-time face-to-face work. But businesses are saying the economy is recovering, and as a result, that they believe that things are going to get better. They see improvement in the production sector. And generally, they believe that government policies are supporting all of this.
A 26-year-old man has been taken into custody in relation to a brazen shooting in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew, Monday evening, which left dozens of commuters running for their lives. 2 women were also shot and injured during the incident. We have more in this report. The scene minutes after an armed 26-year-old man ran through the Halfway Tree Transportation Center in St. Andrew around 7 o'clock Monday evening. Yellow tape shows where 2 innocent bystanders were shot. Head of the JCF's Corporate Communications Unit, Stephanie Lindsay, told us what happened.
It's reported that a group of police officers from the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Department were on duty in Halfway Tree when they observed a man whose action drew their attention. They proceeded to search him and he pulled a firearm and fired at the police.
The police said the suspect ran to the bus park and attempted to board a bus as he continued to fire at the police, but he was intercepted. Eyewitnesses who did not wish to appear on camera told our news team scores of commuters who were at the bus stop had to run for cover as loud explosions rang out. Many managed to escape unhurt, but 2 women were not so lucky. We were also told that the suspect tried to hide the weapon.
The police did return fire. The man attempted to escape. However, he was apprehended and an illegal firearm taken from him. The females were taken to hospital where they were treated. Their condition are not considered life-threatening at this time, so they continue to receive treatment.
Despite objections by the People's National Party, the government is this afternoon doubling down on the controversial utterances by a Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Rural Juliet Holness. Mrs. Holness asserted that, quote, anywhere that is not safe to live, comrades live there, end quote. O'Shane Masters tells us more.
The comment that has had people talking over the last 24 hours.
Everywhere in my constituency that it is not safe to live, comrades live there. Anywhere where a river going to wash away, comrades live there. Anywhere that is a garbage dump, comrades live there. And it's not Labour Party put them there. I want people to start to look around. Life rough, yes, and some of us do have it hard, but start to look around and see who really care about you.
The assertion made by Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Rural Juliet Holness at a JLP party meeting on Sunday. The opposition People's National Party, however, has described the comment as reckless, partisan, and demeaning to people desperate to find housing. However, Public Relations Chairman of the JLP, Robert Morgan, says nothing wrong was said. He also went further, accusing the PNP of using housing as a political tool.
They have encouraged persons to squat in areas that put them at risk. And even in programs that they've built, such as Operation Pride, there's been such systematic corruption that the same people who they were supposed to benefit actually in the long term suffer more. Look at what is happening over by Riverton, where they mortgage the people's property and still the people cannot get their titles because there's a lien on their titles. They tried to build an Operation Pride scheme in a riverbed in St. Thomas.
Mr. Morgan says the government has been trying to correct some of the housing issues inherited from the PNP administration.
Some of the places that people live that were settlements encouraged by previous PNP administration put people at risk. And it is very dangerous for us to title people who live in the riverbed in Bedward Gardens, for example. So the government has to be offering these people opportunities that is outside of where they live. Some of them do not want it.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Continuing the news now, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says Jamaica is making progress in addressing concerns raised by the European Union that landed the island on the EU's grey list in 2020. Now, the grey list contains countries that are responding to the EU's concerns about failure to address issues like money laundering. Dr. Clark says the government is implementing an action plan that will see Jamaica being removed from the grey list.
We have made lots of progress, but we still have remaining elements. And let me just say that we would have originally intended to complete everything earlier in 2022, and that has not happened. So Jamaica is behind and has put forward a new date, I believe, of February or March 2023 to get all the matters outstanding completed.
Dr. Clark says 7 of 13 action items have been completed. One of the remaining tasks is to ensure that all financial and designated non-financial businesses and professions are brought into an adequate regulatory regime.
You know, the non-financial business and profession include gambling, real estate, accounting, trust and corporate services, law, legal, etc. We have made tremendous progress in bringing a number of those sectors, well, all of those sectors under the AML-CFC regime except for the legal profession.
The Jamaican Bar Association has taken legal action against the government and the General Legal Counsel, alleging that the government's new Proceeds of Crimes Act poker regulations affect attorney-client privilege. The case is to be heard by the Privy Council. An emergency procurement project has started to address issues with the Greenwich Farm sewage site in St. Andrew. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, gave an update during a recent tour of the facility. The work is a short-term fix to the stench that has blanketed the area for years. However, Mr. Samuda noted that a long-term fix would require a greater project.
As it relates to the treatment plant, that is an element that has to be a part of the broader Kingston and St. Andrew sewage overhaul because it requires a sewage overhaul. Some of your lines are 50 and 60 years old, unacceptable. Some of them are not built for the size developments that are in the area. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of investment to make. There are announcements to come in the very short term on the financing to allow for this sewage work to come and
In a TVJ News follow-up, the Jamaica Defence Force, JDF, has given an update on the recent report of sexual harassment accusations against a senior officer. In a statement issued a few moments ago, it explained that the senior officer at the center of the sexual harassment allegations at the JDF is being recalled from training overseas to enable further investigation and the appropriate disciplinary proceedings. JDF Chief of Defence Staff, Rear Admiral Weems Gorman, says throughout the process, the JDF remains keen on protecting the complaints, confidentiality to reduce any opportunity for victimization or illegal mismanagement of the investigation. She's encouraging any service member or civilian that has information with regards to this investigation or any other breach of the sexual harassment policy or any other policy to come forward and make a formal report. And it's now time for the Business Minutes.
In the world of business, users of WePay Caribbean can expect to see a reduction in the cost of electronic transactions in the region. WePay plans to eliminate the need for US dollar payments going through correspondent banks in the US by establishing a Volt network. The network will connect more than 15,000 websites and point-of-sale terminals in the Caribbean that process individual, government, and corporation transactions. It's noted that each Caribbean country has its currency that trades primarily with the US dollar, and by pegging a digital token to the US dollar, transactions from one country to another can maintain their expected value against the US currency. In international business, WhatsApp suffered a serious outage on Tuesday, preventing users across the globe from sending or receiving messages on the platform. The world's most popular messaging app started having problems around 3 a.m., which lasted until 4:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The service was back for some users, but appeared to remain patchy elsewhere. There were nearly 70,000 reports of outages on the platform. The cause of the outage was not immediately clear. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm O'Shane Masters.
It's now time for the top regional and international stories. Here's O'Shane Masters.
In the region, in Trinidad, former government minister Karen Nunez Teixeira will receive more than $18 million in compensation from Gulf View Medical Center and one of its doctors. This comes after the Privy Council upheld the ruling of a High Court judge and the local appeal court. The local courts had found that the doctor and medical center were liable by way of negligence for the death of Nunez Teixeira's husband. The judgment was delivered on Tuesday. On the international scene, the newly installed UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak gave his first address to the country on Tuesday and paid tribute to his predecessor, Liz Truss.
It is only right to explain why I'm standing here as your new Prime Minister. Right now, our country is facing a profound economic crisis. The aftermath of COVID still lingers. Putin's war in Ukraine has destabilized energy markets and supply chains the world over.
The NAC says Truss was not wrong to want to improve growth in the country. He said it was a noble aim and he admires her relentlessness in trying to create a change. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Shane Masters.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Kelisha Williams. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.